Level 1. The kid who loved the blinking lights. You are 10 years old taking apart your family's old desktop computer on the garage floor, not because it's broken, but because you need to know what's actually inside the beige box that's been running Windows for 3 years without you ever wondering how. Your father finds you surrounded by screws and ribbon cables at midnight, expecting a disaster, finding instead a working computer and a kid who reassembled it correctly on the first try, refusing to let anyone else touch the screwdriver for the rest of the night. You build your first PC from mismatched parts at 13, saving up birthday money for a used motherboard, learning through a dozen failed boots and one small electrical scare. Exactly why static wristbands exist. A lesson that costs you a fried sound card you never fully explained to your parents. You watch a documentary about server farms, endless rows of blinking lights in a building the size of a small city, and something about the scale of it, thousands of machines working in perfect silent coordination, lodges itself permanently in your imagination. A scale you can't quite picture yet, but already know you want to understand from the inside. Level 2. The junior technician. You are 20, hired as an overnight junior tech at a regional data center, walking your first cold aisle in a hoodie because nobody warned you it would be 40 degrees colder than the hallway. You spend your first month learning cable management with an obsessiveness that borders on religious, understanding within a week that a poorly routed cable isn't just ugly, it's a fire risk and an airflow problem waiting to happen. Your first real incident is a failed hard drive in a live production array at 2 a.m., and you hot swap it correctly on your first try only because you'd rehearsed the procedure in your head a dozen times during slow shifts. A senior tech catches a mistake you almost make, pulling the wrong drive entirely, before it becomes a real outage, catching your wrist mid-motion with a calm that somehow says more than shouting would have, and the specific quiet way he corrects you teaches you more than any training manual did, a lesson in precision you carry into every rack you touch afterward. Level 3. The systems administrator. You are 26, promoted off the floor and into systems administration, now responsible for the servers themselves instead of just the hardware they live in, patching, monitoring, keeping thousands of virtual machines quietly healthy without anyone upstream ever noticing your name. You learn to read a dashboard the way a doctor reads vitals, catching a memory leak 3 days before it would have taken down a client's application entirely. Your first real crisis hits during a routine update that goes sideways at 4 a.m., cascading across a cluster faster than your rollback plan accounts for, and the 90 minutes it takes you to manually stabilize every affected node become the longest 90 minutes of your career so far. You bring it back without data loss. Nobody outside the team ever knows it happened. That's the job working exactly the way it's supposed to. Invisible competence nobody upstream will ever think to thank you for. Level 4. The data center operations engineer. You are 33, running operations for an entire facility now, responsible for power redundancy, cooling systems, and the physical infrastructure that everything else quietly depends on without ever thinking about it. You learn the building's electrical schematics as thoroughly as you once learned motherboards, understanding exactly which backup generator kicks in within how many seconds if the grid fails, and exactly how long the batteries buy you until it does. A cooling system failure during a summer heat wave gives you 11 minutes before server temperatures cross a dangerous threshold, and you spend every one of them executing an emergency shutdown sequence on the least critical racks first, buying the critical ones just enough time. The facility survives without a single customer-facing outage. You go home that morning and don't sleep for hours, still running the sequence in your head, replaying every second to make sure you didn't miss anything the next time. Level 5. The site director. You are 42, directing an entire data center campus now, responsible for hundreds of employees across 3 shifts, and the uptime commitments that major clients have written into contracts worth more than you'll ever fully process. Your days become almost entirely about systems you'll never personally touch, capacity planning 2 years out, sustainability targets, a new facility build that will define this campus for the next decade. A regional power grid failure threatens every facility under your direction simultaneously, and you spend the entire night coordinating rolling failovers across sites you can't physically reach, running entirely on trust built over years rather than anything you can personally verify in the moment, trusting engineers you trained years ago to execute exactly what you taught them. Every site stays up. You walk the cold aisles once a month specifically to remember what the job feels like at floor level, nodding at technicians who have no idea you once hot swapped a drive at 2 a.m. exactly like they just did, carrying the same nervous focus you remember perfectly well. Level 6. The Chief Infrastructure Officer. You are 55, overseeing the company's entire global infrastructure now, spending most of your time in rooms with boards and investors rather than server rooms, though you still request a facility tour whenever you visit a site, unable to fully let go of the habit. You've built built infrastructure standards that outlived 3 generations of hardware, watching technology cycle through entirely new architectures, while the fundamentals you learned on a garage floor decades ago somehow never stop applying. You visit a new data center opening on a Tuesday and find a young technician troubleshooting a cable run with an intensity you recognize immediately, tracing the same obsessive logic you once brought to your very first cold aisle. You crouch beside the rack and ask what's wrong. She explains it perfectly, already halfway to the answer herself. You tell her, honestly, that she's already better at this than you were at her age. You let her finish the fix herself, watching quietly, the exact way someone once let you, understanding finally what that patience had actually been worth.